This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for The Rant with Barbara Rose Brooker. And Barbara, I know today we're really not talking about some of the subjects we normally do, like ageism and, cosmetic surgeries or not. We're talking about real world things, and you've got some great guests. So why don't you go ahead and introduce us, and let's get this party going.
Okay, I'd like to get this party going. And listeners, let me tell you, after the debates last night, after our orange, racist, stupid, ignorant, F-head president would not denounce the white supremacists and said, stand back and wait. Well, I wrote it down. He said, he praised them. That's what I'm going to say. We are heading for a world, for those of you who are sitting on the fence, get off the effing fence. There's nothing to sit on the fence, or we're going to end up in a world worse than Nazi Germany Holocaust. So I just want to say, I want to introduce fabulous guest today. JD Fuller, who is a real treat. She is a professor. She is an author. She's a teacher. She fights for justice for African Americans. She's everything. I'm not even listing all the things that she is, really. And Suzy Unger, who is not only a well-known talent agent, but now a licensed therapist and an activist for human justice, was JD's student. And I'm not going to rant today, I promise, because I want to hear what they have to say. And the first question I'm going to ask JD, and I'm going to read it because I wrote it down to make sure I don't screw it up. It's called, we're going to talk about the verdict. Everything is a verdict right now. And the first question is the verdict of Brianna's case. I mean, I heard this morning they're reluctantly holding back the tapes, but they're reluctantly going to release the police tapes. JD, what, if anything, surprised you about this verdict? What is the statement it makes or doesn't make about our current culture? Where do we go from here? This woman was shot while she was sleeping.
Let's take it one at a time. First of all, was I surprised? I was not surprised. Unfortunately, I was not surprised. Or fortunately, I wasn't surprised, so that it wasn't even more devastating than it already was. It is a horrific idea that you could be sleeping in your bed and the police can do a no-knock raid and kill you, and that there is no justice. I think the message, the statement it makes is that right now is that there is no justice for African Americans who are murdered in this country. And if there is, it's few and far between and extremely overdue. I think it's interesting that they paid her family something like $12 million, but didn't charge the police. If that's not a mixed message, I don't know what is. So the statement is that our country is willing to pay out for careless and irresponsible murders of its citizens. They're willing to pay your tax dollars to subsidize the lack of training and the lack of humanization of people, because they can be killed and we'll just pay it off. But there'll be no justice. So, and where do we go from here? I think we should let Suzy in on it first, and then we can all talk about where we go from here, because that's a bigger question.
Go ahead, Suzy.
Okay. Well, I have been telling everyone to watch this documentary called The Social Dilemma, and the way that our culture prioritizes and divides the world through this social media lens. And I don't know why everyone isn't saying her name. And what does it say about a culture that not only was she a Black woman, so she had 2 strikes against her, but there also wasn't the, and when I say salacious or solid, I can't even say it, but there isn't the video that captures America's attention. So what does it say about a culture that can make decisions based on an iPhone tape? But when you have facts that are not protected by the video, and we just know old school, this is wrong, this is against the law, show the evidence, that we don't see it. How would it have been different if it were a man and someone had been videotaping it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's this meme that says, if Brianna's name was Becky, he would have been charged. And so, the implication is that if it was a white woman, you remember when the black police officer accidentally killed the white woman, it took about a day and a half to get him charged and push charges through. He didn't get probation. I mean, he basically was charged and put away. And in this case, it's different. It's hard not to realize that our society operates on the color of your skin. It just does. It's a fact. There's nothing we can do other than to acknowledge that if we're going to change it.
And not only the color of your skin, but also through, yes, the color of your skin and through the lens of white supremacy, which of course doesn't exist according to last night, to patriarchy, to homophobia, to racism. All of those isms are right there in that room with Brianna, and yet it gets dumbed down to a $12 million payment to her family to invisibilize it and forget it, and for all of us to say, oh, we don't need to say her name anymore.
It's a bribe.
If we don't look at racism first, then we don't get an impact of just how horrifying this whole thing is. I mean, you even have a black man like Charles Barkley saying something ridiculous, although he's always been a self-hating celebrity. He's got no love or support for the African-American community. He never has. And that's his own internalized stuff, but people listen to him. And you have him going on national TV saying, well, if the boyfriend hadn't shot at the police, they wouldn't have shot. And literally, he doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no proof that that's the case. And now they have a witness who said they heard. This is what I don't understand. They said it was a no-knock raid, but they have a witness who said they heard the police announce themselves. So if it's a no-knock raid, doesn't that not include an announcement of who you are? So it's confusing to me. And now the witness is supposedly retracting their statement. So It's nothing but corruption. And talk about self-hating. The attorney general in that community is an African-American man, and he couldn't be more self-hating if he tried. He's in bed with 45 and with every other extreme right politician.
Of course. Yeah,
when you say self-hating, can you explain internalized racism?
So I think the way I phrase it is that for people of color, African Americans and other people of color, what happened to us as a result of racism is that we learned to internalize everything good about ourselves as negative. So what we might have been raised with as positive, we've now twisted it, and it becomes negative messages that we've been told from the outside world. So I call it internalized depression because I don't think we're aware of when it's happening. I don't know that it's a conversation we openly have, but it's represented in situations where we don't have any compassion or empathy for ourselves. I've said before on your show, the one thing I know about the African American culture is we've been raised and trained in how to take care of white people. And so that is our go-to, is to how do we make the situation okay so that the fragility doesn't show. And so that's what I identify as internalized depression. Now I say for white people, unfortunately, what happens for the dominant cultures, you've internalized the systems of racism. So in how it manifests, how it shows itself is in privilege. Just being able to do the common things that you do on a daily basis without even thinking about it is how the racism is internalized. So people think just because I'm not a white supremacist, or I'm not a part of the Proud Boys, or I don't go around saying racist things, means I don't own racism, you know. And I've said, you do own it. You just have to figure out how to manage it. If you're not conscious of it, then you don't know how to manage it and be responsible with your privilege. And so that's what I mean. You know, it's like kids are raised to feel positive about themselves, but in the African-American community, you know, the things that you might have inside of you that you've been told by your parents, sometimes is often is overshadowed by the negative messages we receive from the outside world.
I don't understand how an intelligent, because he must be intelligent to be an attorney, an intelligent Black man, okay, thinks that it's okay to go against his own community.
I don't think he sees us as his own community. That's the self-hating part. So when I say self-hating, that means he looks in the mirror and doesn't see himself as one of us. He looks in the mirror and wants a seat at the table. He wants a seat at the Republican conservative table that is about being a white male. I think that's what he wishes he was, and that's what he tries to model his life after.
So what happens if he's walking down a dark street some night?
Exactly.
Okay? He's still Black. Okay. And we know that the Black man is going to get arrested or shot or something before the white man.
So it's a deep unconscious process. I believe that he feels that, or he operates as if he acts more and more like the white male right, he'll be seen as the white male right. So it's a denial. And as we know in therapy, you know, denial is the most destructive defense that there is. You know, so for him, it doesn't exist. It's not a reality. He's married to a white woman. His world is surrounded by whiteness. So I think he just, you know, blends in. I don't know if you saw that guy, the Black guy in the South who was fighting for the Confederate flag, talking about his history was being jeopardized by us wanting to remove the Confederate flag. He was adopted by a white family. And so, you know, people tend to think if I act as if and join in this way, it's going to impact me differently. Little do they know, you know, you're Black all the time, and that doesn't get treated differently. That's our reality.
JD and Suzy, don't you think the police with the no knock going into Brianna's home while she's sleeping, killing her, is really no different from the Gestapo going into homes and dragging out babies and shooting people? Isn't it the same thing?
If people don't realize what is happening in this country right now is Nazi Germany, then it is really, they need to go back to the history books. He parallels, and the other disturbing thing is that, you know, Nazi Germany got their strategies from us. Mm-hmm. So the reality that, you know, we are now re-engaging in you know, what do you call it? Like propaganda that is what we know has destroyed a people in another country. It's unfathomable. It's
Hitler wrote about slavery. He loved it. You know, it's the same thing happening, and I don't know why. Why is it that people, white people, why can't you see this? Why can't you this?
The answer to that is, why can't white people see it? Which white people are you talking about? Because it's different for some and others.
Yeah, I'm talking about right now the base, Trump's base for it.
But we have to look at his base. His base is, again, he's using old strategies from slavery in the 1800s that worked exactly right, which is white is right, and that we have to protect what we have, because if we don't, they will take it from us. And he is operating with his lower socioeconomic base in fear of what Black people in particular, because it's anti-Black racism, want to take from them, what we are stealing from them, what we came to this country to do and are now taking from them. So it's a cult-like fear he's instilled in them. And so if you look at his, I'm sorry, Suze, if you look at his affluent base, the 1%, well, he's got them afraid that there isn't a Black person who's ever run an economic country, never run a country that's economically sound. And so you can't let anybody be in charge of your money but me. And he's proven to them by making them money during his ride.
One question I have, and I'll let Suzy talk. One question, why is it that the white reporters, known reporters, I won't even mention their names, that we all love and we watch on CNN and everything, I see them feeding fuel into the fire?
Yeah, because they have
saying something.
No, because look, they want to keep their jobs. And, controversy sells. I mean, that's what Suzy's talking about with the verdict, the social, what is it called? Social dilemma is basically the idea that we are being trained to think and believe the way that we are. The idea that everything we click on social media is clickbait. And what it does is it informs the systems of how to keep us feeling the way we do, wanting what we want, buying more, incensed, enraged. So at the same time, we are getting fed all of this kind of, humanistic, caring type of stuff. The conservative right and the extremists, the white supremacists, are being fed the same type of stuff that's keeping them at the extreme and where they are. So they're all making money off of this divisiveness. Don't let it fool you.
Yes. Suzy, you were going to.
Well, I was just going to say that actually JD and I are going to, on our new podcast, we're going to do a show called The Soundtrack of Our Lives, and looking at Trump through a therapeutic and cult lens. But one of the things that's very evident is that his base, who predominantly needs someone to believe in, and it makes them feel in their body safe, it makes them feel that way. They sacrifice integrity or honesty or truth. And the irony is that he wouldn't spend one day with them, but he collectively takes them, and anyone who disagrees with his message is the enemy. Anyone.
Yeah. And just like Jim Jones and every other cult leader, like what's his name? The one who killed Manson. If you look at their stories, he is based in strategies that they use. And if you think about the other part of his base, which is the conservative Christians, he's got them so fearful that babies are going to be killed that they ignore everything else that he does, which is based not in Christianity, but in hatred. And they are obsessed with focusing on that. Meanwhile, we have children in cages. The hypocrisy is crazy.
No one mentioned that, of course. Children wrapped in foil in cages, separated from their parents, which brings up that Trump, without the people's choice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, our great justice, who fought for justice for women and men, he goes ahead and he nominates this Amy, wait, I have to look at her name. I heard her speak and I almost gagged. Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett. White, perfect, Christian. If I hear that word one more, you have to be baptized to be in her church. And I hear that one more time, I'm going to barf. Because that doesn't mean everybody wants to be that person. So he went ahead, and I'm going to read this question. Trump's choice to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What do we know about her? She's 48, a lawyer, professor of law at Notre Dame. Reportedly, she has an unyielding loyalty to the Constitution. Is that enough for humanity to have an unyielding loyalty to the Constitution?
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? The Constitution needs rewriting anyway.
And somebody tried pointing out the other day that this superficial white porcelain woman has a black child. And made sure, two. Okay, they only talked about one, and made sure that child was front and center.
Of course.
And, it's like.
And baptized.
Why? I mean, this doesn't make her anything special, okay?
Well,
she had the money. I'm not even sure why she adopted these children.
Yeah. I think that what it does is it gives the impression that she doesn't own any racist values because she adopted two Haitian children after the hurricane, and she also has a child with Down syndrome. So she cares about all of humanity, and no child should be thrown away, is the subliminal message that they're sending out. And it's, it's untrue. We know it's untrue.
But yet a woman will not have a choice to have an abortion.
Because, that's the Christian base. That's what feeds them.
Yeah.
Well, I also think, and I totally defer to you, JD, but these 7 children and her sort of Handmaid's Tale cult, whatever her church is, that I don't know enough about, but it sounds very Handmaid's Tale to me. And taking out these 2 children who live in a sea of whiteness.
Yeah.
What does that say about those children, and I'm sorry, about what she doesn't know about racism?
Yeah. Well, they're going to raise another attorney general in the Breonna Taylor case. And that's who they're going to raise. They're going to raise another Black man with a Confederate flag, believing that's his history. That's what they're going to raise. And the argument would be, so is it better to leave these children unadopted and not have them have a family? It's unfortunate that's even a conversation we have to have. Every child, our foster care system is a mess. And it's horrific that any child goes without a home, but they should have plenty of choices. And all of the anti-abortionists should be adopting them. So, but there also should be a requirement to have a cultural component, if you will, in your family that celebrates the child you adopt. It shouldn't just be forcing them fit into what you are and what you believe. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, there are many celebrities, as we know, and movie stars who only adopt African-American children.
Well, African children. They don't adopt enough African-American children. That's the problem.
That's true. And, there's good parents and there's bad parents. It's a whole different thing. But with this Amy Barrett, we're going to go back hundreds of years.
Yeah,
She's going for decades. This is frightening.
Look, but I'm sorry, Suze. Go ahead.
I was going to say that this is the system that is set up. It's a verdict. We really don't have a choice. We have to sit by and watch, and literally, it's disgraceful. But the system that is set up through Trump and all of his allies, because he makes his supporters his allies, and anyone else is an enemy going against whatever the white Christian lens is. And so, JD, what were you going to say? Because I don't know what to do from here.
A couple of things. One is that we have to look at, the white woman's marriage to patriarchy. And that while we're yelling women, 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 they're protecting whiteness by standing by their man and put this man in office. So, I don't know that there's enough women who will step away from protecting whiteness to vote 45 out, because in the end, they want protection and they want their future taken care of. And I think that's what has to happen. They keep, emphasizing the Black vote. We need the Black vote. It's hard for Black people to vote. Both systemically, it gets oppressed. Voter suppression happens predominantly in Black communities, people of color communities. Access to voting is challenging. Most people who are at a lower socioeconomic level, whether Black or white, are just trying to deal with their daily lives. The idea of voting hasn't made a difference in their life. So why should they take time off from work and go sit hours at a poll when there's no guarantee that change is going to occur? And then we have this not new, but I would say very strong radical left who believes two-system party is a problem and it's not working, not realizing that not voting is keeping who we have in office, which, is a white supremacist. So there's a lot of systems at play here that are problematic. But like Suzy said, these systems were in place and 45 perpetuates them, but these systems have long been put in place to be just what they are. The system's not broken. It was designed to do exactly what it's doing. So in thinking of where we go from here, we have to see who really wants change. Because I believe a lot of people offer lip service, but are they willing to give up a little bit of what they have to affect change? And are they willing to do it outside of a pandemic? Because I don't know if there'd be all this uprising if we weren't in the pandemic, to be perfectly honest with you.
You know, it's interesting. This past weekend, my husband and I took a ride. We were in small town Ohio, and I just couldn't believe all the Trump signs I saw.
Oh.
And these are farmers, and you can see that they weren't able to harvest their crops, so their crops are dying. So that means they're losing money.
Right.
So we stopped in one little town, and there was a little shopkeeper who's lived in the town his whole life. And first thing he said to us, when he found out we were from Cleveland, he goes, "I'm so glad to see city folk. How are we going to get Donald Trump out of here?" And I looked at him and I said, "But you live in a community that is supporting him." And he said, "They don't know any better." And I said, "But how can they not understand? Their crops are dying. They've worked so hard to grow them. They're dying. They have nobody to get them to." And he goes, "They just don't understand."
That is so true. So, you know, he, like a cult leader, he has convinced them that the only way things are going to get better is if he stays in office, leaving out the reason why things have gotten this bad is because he's in office. So it is really a cult strategy to convince people that your situation, as bad as it is only going to get better if I stay in office. And that's what happens to these people who don't have access to an outside perspective that teaches them differently.
JD and Suzy and Karen, these people have TVs. So they watch TV. Are they not listening to scientists, astronomers, doctors? They're watching protests now that are getting like, they're eating popcorn and watching the protests that are getting.
But Barbara, here's the thing, even the media, it depends where you choose to get your news. So if you're a Trump supporter, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Fox News. And even the media is completely divided. If you're not a Trump supporter and you go to CNN, it's a foreign language, or NPR or anywhere else.
I agree, but what I'm saying, what's so tragic is that the protests, what we have, the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, which Trump did not mention last night either.
He never has.
No, he never has. But my God, it's almost like you're watching murders and lynchings and injustice on TV now, like just.
Yeah, but they think it's our fault. They think it's our fault. You know, a cult leader has taught them that, just like during slavery, I'm telling you, this book Stamped is just such a reminder of everything that's happened in this country and how right now, literally everything is exactly the same. You know, there was a belief that the slaves brought slavery on themselves. It was taught that the everything in Blackness was wrong, and the only thing we were good for was physical strength and sexuality. And when slavery ended, we were labeled as lazy. You know, so there's a mentality that's been taught, and this base believes that Black people are creating victimization for themselves, not fighting for justice that has been a part of oppressing us our entire lives. He has them convinced, just like they did in slavery. We brought it on ourselves.
Well, JD, you taught me the biggest lesson, and it's so simple when you were my professor, which you still and always will be every single day. But the main culprit is fear. And the fear that, oh my God, Black people could actually have a position of power is so threatening to the white base and so inconceivable that they will do anything, including just turn the page, it doesn't matter. So fear is the culprit.
What about Obama?
Well, wait, let me go back one and say, I would add to it that it's not just fear of the fact that they may have to give something up. There's a meme that says, white people are lucky that all Black people want is equality and not revenge. And that is the fear. That's the fear.
Yes, that's it.
That's the fear.
Say that again.
That white people are lucky that Black people only want equality and not revenge.
That's so
And that's the fear.
what an important awareness that is, what you just said. But when I say Obama, who's my hero, in so many ways, because I just think he was a great president. But what I notice is he seems to have been like thrown aside. My question is, how can Black people change this?
Well, it's not on us to change it. We didn't create it.
It's not.
We didn't create it. Go ahead, Suzy, say it.
They didn't create the problem. They can't fix the problem.
That I know. That how can it be fixed is the question I'm asking, I guess. Or can it be fixed?
Go ahead. What's your thought?
Right now, I honestly, in my body, am feeling so little hope. I want to look through a lens of possibility, and today I can't. Maybe hit me up tomorrow, but right now I'm grieving, and I can't. Let me ask you how you are feeling, because I'm a white woman of privilege. I get to grieve. My world doesn't change.
Yeah.
But our world is changing, okay? And that's what the white person needs to understand. Our world is changing.
But not.
Well, I'll tell you another deeper fear, along with the fear of retribution. The other fear is that it is changing to a much more multicultural world, and that the dominant white culture will not be the dominant white culture by 2040. Yes. So that is the other fear.
That's a big fear, I think.
And then when that happens, then the retribution comes. So I would argue that the fear is one and then the other. And so the effort is to stop both, which is why they're, supposedly I heard something about sterilizing or testing sterilization in the ICE camps. I mean, every effort is being made to, oppress that can. So the fact, you're right, Karen, the racial culture is changing, but America's not ready to change the systems, because
us Americans have to change it, because we're not born and truly bred here. Okay. I have family from Russia. I have family from Poland. Everybody has family from someplace. Most of us, we're not pilgrims here. So therefore, we are part of a multicultural relationship, and we need to accept that and become together with that.
But you have to look at the fact that you're right. The only Native Americans are the Native Americans. And the fact that every other culture has to say Jewish American or African American or Hispanic second generation, or we all have to qualify who we are, except for white immigrants. They just get to say they're Americans and go back where you came from if you don't like it. So just language like that is problematic. I mean, there's so many different ways that is reinforced, and that, it is our problem. The people who are being oppressed, our problem to figure out. And it's not our problem to figure out. You created the systems, you have to change the systems.
And
you just have to fight to stay alive.
White people are so anti-gay. They're so anti-this. They're so anti-that. Everyone is in little compartments. Anti-age, everything. The homophobia is rampant in our country. It's only now. So what you said, JD, addressing that is there's fear. White people have fear that they are going to not be
the dominant culture.
In the dominant culture.
Yeah, and I would say, I would change that slightly, just to say that the white gay movement is doing fine. Mm-hmm. It's the trans community that's being most targeted right now, and more specifically, the trans community of color. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the white gay community is doing enough to be activists with regard to, in the same way that they did for gay marriage. I don't see the same fervor, the same fight, the same concern. And that's because racism exists in that culture as well. So it really is looking at, and that's why I take everything from, the white and black continuum, because everything falls along that, as I've said before. And until you work on those two extremes, not much is going to change along the middle.
JD, I'm thinking about my individual experience where I went into your classroom really not believing I had a racist bone in my body, and that the way that you teach from experience, and now on this separate conveyor belt, hold everything that we're talking about. And now we have Trump taking away diversity training or education. And so we have this happening simultaneously as some people are trying to do better to educate themselves, but now diversity training is banned.
Well, that's another attempt at shutting down the voice of color. It's just another attempt to, he said, Walmart, who I don't even understand why people still shop at Walmart. I just don't get it. I don't understand why people have to work at Walmart. It is one of the worst companies out there. They do horrible by their staff, and their politics are so in 45's pocket. And supposedly they just made a deal with TikTok to buy TikTok. And as a result of that, 45 said he was going to start an education about the real American history.
Here we go again. Trump University, where he profits, right?
Yeah.
Off of
Absolutely.
bullshit.
And doesn't pay taxes.
I mean, he paid millions of dollars, but not one person last night, one reporter has said, prove it.
And you have to think about who owns these, what do you call it, stations, the media? Who owns the media? Who profits? Rich people are going to do fine whether he's in office or not. So I question their desire to really, bring out the truth and really be who we want them to be. I don't think they're that invested, to be perfectly honest with you.
No, there's a few of them, I think, a couple. Like, I like Don Lemon. I think he's trying. He's trying. And also, I'm not going to get into all that. I mean, there's a few who are trying.
But they're preaching to the choir.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. They're preaching to the choir. So take away education, the way America really was built, so that people can understand it and do something about it. But if you don't have that, then it really looks like, again, people are comfortable. They want to believe in Trump. He's their ally. He's their friend. He's their reality star. He gives them something to care about.
Well, he's a stand-up comic, and they want to go and be part of the whole thing. These are people, I think it's a pathology. They want to be part of the show.
Well, what I think is they like that he's not a politician. They like that he flubs and doesn't speak articulately, and that he's doesn't know and he shoots from the hip. I think that makes his group who have not been, say, economically or educationally exposed, I think it makes them feel validated.
That's the whole thing. Yeah, they go to the show and they're part of it, and he's talking to them and speaking their language, and they just go crazy. They don't care about the tax.
Well, and the people that he's talking to feel slighted in some way, and they become bullies. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have a neighbor over here. When I walk in the morning, he only has about 5 American flags on the back of his pickup truck. And I was standing talking to another neighbor the other day, and we were both wearing masks. Of course, he's not. And he looked over and he said, "Oh, are you afraid I'm going to give you something?" And I just looked at him and I said, "You don't have to bully me. You believe what you want to believe. I'm going to believe what I want to believe." And he started following me in his truck as I was walking.
Right.
So I called 911, and the police showed up. And because it's required to wear a mask in the state of Ohio, okay, he got a ticket.
Great.
Now,
Go Karen.
But I'm afraid now to walk around. I don't want to meet this guy.
But Karen, you make an excellent point, which is this group will do anything if they fear whiteness is being, threatened. Mm-hmm. So they do become bullies. They do. And as afraid as they are, is as much power as they put into bullying you. So they act as if they're not afraid by bullying when they're the biggest chickens that live.
How is this going to affect the women's movement as women right now? There's so many women out there who seem to be falling into this. Women I saw interviewed this morning who say, I'm very liberal, I really want this, but I'm on the fence. What are they on the fence about? I don't understand.
So my question to you then is, what are the ages of these women? Because I've heard from women that are my age, well, if abortion rights are taken away, I don't have to worry about it.
There you go.
My comment is, wait a second, your daughter, your granddaughters, your neighbors. I mean, I saw my roommate perform an abortion on herself.
Oh my God.
A beautiful Catholic young girl, but she was terrified to tell her parents that she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
You know, we got her to the health center in time. I grew up like you did, Barbara, in an era when that's what girls were doing.
Right.
They were going to. Why do we want to go back to that?
Because I'll tell you, because like Suzy said with A Handmaid's Tale, they think it's punishment. If women do that to themselves, then what they get is the punishment. You know, you got to remember, slavery was based in Christianity and in, you know, the belief under the eyes of God in terms of what they believed as far as slavery was concerned. It was all sanctioned. You know, that was the belief system. So there's a lot of crazy things that happen in the name of God or the universe or whomever you believe.
In the name of God. So, JD, I love that you talk about the verdict of all of this. How do you feel, or why, and I'm going to read the question, why do you think Kamala Harris, whom I so thrilled with, was chosen? That's number one. And what does she mean? What does this mean for women and their future? How is she going to help?
Look, I think that it was a strategic move, which was smart. I think it was smart. She's more than capable and competent. I think they believe and hope that she will persuade the Black vote. And I also think they're hoping that she will persuade the female vote, because she is a strong woman who has stood up for what she's believed in. And she's also evolved, I'm happy to say, because I wasn't always in support of what she did as an attorney general or what she fought for early in her career. But I'm happy to see that she's evolved, and she is exactly what Biden needs to balance him out with his own weaknesses. I think they are a very strong team, and it's a smart move that they got together for this election. And I'm only hoping that people will really want change. That's what it comes down to. Do they really want change? We're going to find out in November.
We're going to find out, and
That's a good place to end it.
I was just going to say, I really think Kamala can bring it home. This could be just incredible. And I hope that everyone out there will vote for Biden, and and also vote at home. For those who are afraid to go out to the voting booths because of the COVID, fill out your ballots at home. Trump is making everyone feel like, oh my God, you know, that's a whole nother show in itself. But I think JD and Suzy and Karen, that we are on a good path. And I'm going to pray. When I say a good path, if Trump doesn't get in, we're on a good path. And I just hope that everyone out there will realize this and consider this. Karen, did you want to say something? You look like you wanted to say
No,
something.
I'm just so grateful to JD and Suzy for being on this. You know, the last time we talked about racism and white supremacy, JD, you opened my eyes, because I
Oh,
never
that's awesome.
thought of myself as being prejudiced or anti-Black. And it was
Right.
like, gosh, I have been. But I'm also anti-white too. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to, resolve those issues. And it's not going to happen overnight, but
Right.
becoming aware of them. And you helped that. And Suzy, you describing what happened in the classroom when she opened your eyes, that to me was like mind blowing.
Really important.
So I think, we just got to keep talking about this up
Yeah.
until November 3rd, and,
That-
just doing our best
I agree.
individually.
And
Well,
tuning
thank you for sharing that.
and tuning into JD's podcast, which the title is
Change the narrative with JD.
Change the Narrative with JD, everyone. I'd also thank you, JD, because I've learned
Yeah.
a lot too that I'm reflecting on. I really mean this with all my heart.
Okay.
So also for JD's book, which will be out in the future, which is going to be incredible. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both.
written what you said.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks for having us back on.
Oh my God, it's an absolute pleasure. And Suzy, thank you for coming on. All listeners, Suzy's my daughter. I proud on top of it.
and my co-host.
My co-host, and I'm proud to say, JD, she's my friend and
Of course.
my sister. And listeners, make it happen, and tune in again and stay safe.
Yeah.
We'll be back again next week. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.